Well, hello, everybody. I'm Sheila, Signet's president and COO. Thank you so much for joining me on a Saturday morning, midday. We are here to talk about some of the secrets to Signet's success in working with students. And I don't mean for this presentation to be a brag session, though I think we do have some fun things to brag about. What I want to be able to do is give you some practical advice and help you kind of see how we approach college admission so that you can do this on your own with your own kid or with another group of mentors. There really aren't any secrets here. And one of our goals at Signet is to help sort of spread this philosophy of an approach to college admissions that is less focused on achievement and results and more focused on process and growth, so that when you have a kid who gets into college, they are ready for college and they know how to navigate life decisions, career choices, academic paths, all of the things that they're really going to need as they gain more independence and move on into their adult lives. We want to help them start developing the groundwork for that in high school. And we sort of use the college application process as a little trick to get them to start thinking about these things because they know that they've got to go through it. So I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit and talk to you about how we approach this and give you four big secrets that if you can really implement, things I think will go pretty smoothly for you and your kids in high school. So with that, I'm going to start my screen share. And I think that's the one right here. Okay, great. Okay, looks like this is all working now. Great. Okay, so recently we passed a pretty big milestone. Signet's been in business for about 18 years now, and I've been with Signet for 13 of those wonderful years. And we've just passed 10,000 students served, which is a big number. And it kind of boggles my mind to think about it because we work on a one-on-one basis. So I remember individual students, but it's hard to imagine that actually it's that many students. So, we're very proud of that number. We really helped some kids through some really tough times and help them learn skills and content and help them get into a college that they're really excited about. But the thing we're most proud of is that they are, as I was saying earlier, ready for their college journey. They had support that allowed them to practice making big decisions and learn life skills and help them move along that path towards the college process and towards college while still getting to pursue things that are really meaningful and fun for them, which is important. They're kids. They should be having fun. We sometimes forget that. So it hasn't been easy. And of course, it's taken a lot of time for us to get to that number, but we've learned a lot of things along the way that I'm going to share with you today that really help us connect with students and take down the temperature in some of those tense family dynamics and reduce the stress and demystify the process. So let's go. The first thing I want to share with you all is using myself as an example. So I grew up in a small town in Michigan. I am the child of immigrants. My parents came to this country from Bangladesh in the early 70s, and they were highly educated, but they didn't understand the education system at all in the United States. I was also the youngest child. So I have a brother who's a year older than me, but we couldn't be more different. And I'm sure you can all relate if you have more than one kid. They're just total aliens. Like, how did they even come from the same place? That's how me and my brother are. So my parents were up against kind of a big challenge there. They felt like they maybe figured some things out, and then I came along and they were like, oh crap, what do we do with this one? In my household, fun, hobbies, social time, doing things that weren't related to an academic goal were not really encouraged. And my parents were just doing their best. I know this, but I had a pretty rigid upbringing. So that's me in the box here. And they had very high academic and career expectations, as many immigrant families do, and many other kinds of families. We see education as a transformational tool, right? It can take you to all kinds of success and higher echelons in society and status and things like that, and stability and hopefully some happiness. So I know my parents were just doing their best, but they did really box me in. And I'll tell you what's happening today. I have 2 degrees from Harvard. I have 2 PhDs from Indiana University. I'm an entrepreneur. Signet is not the only business I've been involved with. I am a co-owner and president and COO of Signet Education. I'm a speaker. I'm a thought leader. I'm also a mom. So I'm doing a lot of stuff, and this may paint the picture of a very successful life. And I am very grateful for all that I have. Please don't get me wrong. But I want to point out that there was not a direct line from how I was raised to what I have achieved today. In fact, I felt like I was swimming against the stream every moment of my childhood and young adult life. If I had listened to my parents and done exactly what they wanted, I wouldn't have nearly as much success and fulfillment as I have today. So I bring that up to share with you all. There's more at stake here than just what college they go into. I went to a great college. I don't regret going to Harvard, but I left Harvard not knowing who I was or what I wanted to do or how to go about it. And that's because I didn't think about a lot of the things that we at Signet now encourage our students to think about at an early age in high school to help me navigate, all of those big questions, which are really what you as a parent hope your student will be ready to tackle when those moments come. And I was not ready. So I also share this to let you know that I do really understand what it's like to feel completely confused by the education system. Even if you're from this country, it has changed so much since you went to college. It's changed so much just since COVID started, that it's just an ever-changing landscape. And I really understand that. I had to navigate that pretty much on my own because I didn't really have college counseling in my high school. Private college counselors weren't a thing when I was going to college, and then my parents didn't really know much about the system or how to navigate it. I also really understand the family tension because honestly I was the source of it in my family. I was that bullheaded kid who thought they knew everything, and you couldn't tell me anything. They couldn't make a suggestion of what I should try or what I might like. Anything they said, I shut it down. So I share this also to say that our work at Signet is very much influenced by my own life experience and challenges, really, navigating education and trying to find my path. And if you talk to anybody else at Signet, they have similar stories. They have really impressive schools and credentials and degrees, and they've done a lot of really interesting things, but they'll tell you it was all an accident. They don't know how they managed to do all of these things. They were sort of stumbling through and failing upwards in many cases. And I think we all felt like failures as we were going through that journey, though that journey has led us to our eventual success. And so one of our goals at Signet is to share these stories and help children understand it's not a straight line. Life is just not a straight line from anywhere you are to anywhere you want to be. There are going to be ups and downs, and that's really part of learning. It's part of growth. And so we want to seize on those moments and learn as much as we can from them so we can navigate, the next decision better. So let's get into the secrets that come out of this experience and my experience with Signet over the last 13 years. The big secret, number one, if you've spoken to me before, you've probably heard me say this: don't force it. I actually have a podcast called Don't Force It. This is one of my favorite phrases. You can have goals, expectations, and dreams for your child, but if you push too hard, you already know this, they're going to push back, right? And then all of your good advice, because I'm sure it's great, will go on deaf ears, will never be listened to, right? So you've got to kind of walk a fine balance here of maybe dangling things in front of them, getting the idea into them in some other way. And as you kind of change your role as a parent, growing from, somebody who's doing everything for them when they were younger, making all the decisions, making all the plans, maybe managing their schedule, to going to be more of a champion, a supporter, somebody on the sideline saying, yeah, you go get it. As you make that transition, they are also transitioning, right? Adolescence is a difficult time for a lot of reasons, but it's also challenging because this is when humans, as we develop, are trying to find our independence. There have been studies that show, there's one out of Stanford actually just last year that shows that 13-year-olds' brains light up differently when they hear strangers' voices as opposed to their own parents' voices. Whereas before 13, it's their parents' voices that light them up the most. And this makes sense, right? Adolescence, as I was saying, is the time when teenagers are trying to find their independence, assert their own identities. And so they are trying to distance themselves a little bit from mom and dad. But if you can step aside, your kid will really be able to show you who they are. And I'm not saying step aside completely. I'm not saying do nothing, because of course we know different teenagers, we can trust at different levels. There might be a different time scale that you want to pull back on. But this is the thing to keep in mind. And I don't mean this to be parenting advice. This is really educational advice when it comes to teaching a teenager, not just math content or history. The more you can get them to own and to realize on their own, the more those lessons are going to stick with them, whether they're academic or life lessons. So one of the reasons we try to force it and we set up those rigid boundaries or expectations is because we're really afraid of failure. And it might be, this is something for you to talk about with your therapist, your own fear of failure as a parent, or you're worried that your kid is going to do something that sets them up for failure later in life, or is a failure at that moment. You don't want them to struggle. Of course, none of us want our kids to be in pain or suffering, right? So you want to do things for them so that they can have a nice, happy life. But that does rob them of the opportunity to grow. So one thing that I want to share with you, because it's great for me to share a secret, but if I don't tell you how to do it, well, then this was a waste of everybody's time. So one thing that I want to share with you that we do at Signet with our students in trying to enable this sort of lesson is that we reframe failure. And you can do this in a lot of different ways. I'm going to share two of them with you today. But I think that this is a really foundational tenet of setting your kid up for success. And you might think, oh, that's kind of counterintuitive. We want them to fail. But the idea is to change your definition of failure. Failure is not a dead end. It's not that, okay, this thing happened, it didn't go well, and now you can't ever try it again, or you can't ever do anything again, right? Life goes on, and there are multiple opportunities to try things and to learn to do them better. And we're not good at things the first time we try them. We have to practice those things that are hard for us in order to get the success that we want. And so, in that mindset, one of the kind of exercises you can do is this question of what did you fail at today? And I totally stole this from Sarah Blakely, who is the founder of Spanx, very successful business. She tells this story that her father used to ask this question, and she would come home from school and he'd be like, Sarah, what'd you fail at today? And if she didn't have an answer, he would be really disappointed in her. So she knew, okay, I gotta fail at something. And what that did was it encouraged her to try things, to get out of her comfort zone, to find those edges where the growth really happens. And one of the examples she gave was that she went out for the soccer team and she didn't make it, and she was terrible at soccer and she hated it. It wasn't fun. And she didn't make the team and it felt like a failure. So she shared that. And then he said, okay, so what are the growth moments? What are the good things that came out of this failure? What are the learnings? And what she said was, well, I learned soccer is not for me. Maybe it's some other sport. And I will tell you, learning what's not for you is just as important as learning what is for you, right? So she learned soccer was not for her. She also said, I think I met my best friend. So something really powerful came out of that attempt that she made at something that didn't go well. But there was something that really became important in her life that came out of that moment. So I don't know if that feels comfortable, maybe try that instead of what did you learn today at school, or how was school, or did you win that competition? Maybe emphasizing the things that are struggles and showing how those are the moments where we really grow can change your students' attitude towards failure. And we know that reduces that anxiety, the comparison to other kids, all of that, that whirlpool of stress that really does start to build as you get into high school. So that's one thing I'm going to offer you. The second thing is that I want you to share your story with them. And this is not to say you're all failures. I'm sure you're all very successful in your own right. But your journey to where you are today, like mine, involved a lot of struggle, a lot of failure, a lot of, oh, I thought I liked this and actually I didn't at all. I thought I was good at this thing and then I met somebody else who was actually really good at that thing and it was so humbling. Sharing those stories helps pull back the curtain for students who do think, as I was saying before, success is a straight line. I'm going to get from being a high school student to being the next Bill Gates in 4 years of college, and then I'll get out of college and it's all going to be perfect and laid out for me. No, it's not going to work like that, right? Not only does life throw us curveballs, the process of understanding yourself, understanding what you're good at, building skills in the areas where you need to improve, and then networking to make other opportunities happen is a process, right? And it doesn't all go well. You're going to have a lot of no's before you get yeses. So the more you can share those instances that you've experienced with them, the less they will feel the pressure to have it all figured out and to be perfect every step of the way. And they will be more willing to try things that are a little bit outside of their comfort zone, right? There's so much fear of failure now. Kids don't even want to try. I work with students sometimes on essays. They don't want to show me what they've written until they think it's good enough. And I'm telling them, look, I'm here to help you make it quote unquote good enough. So you have to show me the messiness so that I can help you get to the next level, right? But there is so much fear of failure. They're just keeping it all inside until they feel like it's ready for the world. But if they don't ever practice it, if they don't ever share it, it won't be ready to share. And then, the world is going to miss out on their, special genius, and they aren't ever going to grow. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox on failure now, but I hope that this is a really interesting idea for you that you think you might want to try with your students. Secret 2 is to position yourself like a coach. Now, at Signet, we do coaching. We call it academic coaching. It's really a mix of executive function coaching and life coaching for teenagers. But coaching is like executive coaching. It's like sports coaching in some ways. And I think the analogy of a sports coach, let's pretend we're talking about a soccer coach here. I was a soccer player. I think is a really helpful one, because you think about what a coach does. They don't tell a student or a player, stand here, move your feet like this, and then kick at this time at this particular angle. And, they're not dictating every single move. What they are doing is helping your student understand the game. What are the goals? What are the rules? What can you expect from the other players? Help them cope with a stressful environment, right? It's high pressure. And they're analyzing their performance through observation and helping the student understand where they may need to adapt their technique or their approach or their play. And that's one that obviously is very hard for parents to do. But again, I encourage you to think about how a coach would do it. Rarely is a coach telling a student, hey, you're bad at free throws, do it this way instead. What high performance coaches do is they watch the tape, or they have the student watch the tape with them, right? Watching the tape means there's some recording of the play, and you ask the student or the player, what do you think went well here? And what do you think is not where it should be, or where you want it to be, or what you're capable of? And it's about helping the student see where they can improve so that they have the motivation to take the action that then you might suggest. Why don't you try positioning your hands this way, or put your weight on this foot instead, right? Let's try it out and see how it happens. It's not like dictating. It's building understanding first, creating the motivation for change, and then suggesting an experiment. Let's see how it works for you. And that player, if they're serious about improving their play, is going to say, yeah, coach, I trust that you've done this before. I've seen you coach other people before. And I understand what you're trying to get me to do and why. So let's see how this works. And when it does work, they are going to be overjoyed because they are going to have taken part in the solution, right? And now this is all very idealized talk. You're probably saying, well, school is not as enjoyable as soccer. My kid is not motivated around chemistry or whatever it happens to be. And that's a challenge for sure. For sure it is. But if you can kind of think about all of that peripheral stuff, not the actual chemistry content, but what's your relationship with the teacher like? How are you studying? What do we have any sample exams or problem sets that we can work through to prepare for the next exam in this class? There are lots of opportunities to treat this, excuse me, like a sports event where you can be the coach. And one other thing that I'll say about this is that the coach does not play the game. The coach is on the sidelines, cheering on that student and helping them be their best self, right? But coach isn't out there kicking the ball and scoring the goals in the game, right? That's up to the student. So this is a partnership, right? And there's shared trust there. Again, how do we do this? And I'll tell you what we do at Signet is we build the muscle for reflection. So we talked about watching the tape, right? That is reflection, right? Quite literally, you're looking at a moving image that is reflecting what you just did. But reflection in life, obviously, is a little bit broader. We want to find moments to step back and think about, where am I? What am I doing here? What do I like about this? What don't I like about it? What might I want to change? And reflection is a muscle. We don't do it enough. I think as a society, we're all, busy with our jobs and our families. It's hard to take a moment to reflect. But when you can find those moments, that's where the motivation can really come from, right? So the two things I'm going to share with you about how to do reflection is that reflection is not just, that happened. Reflection at Signet takes kind of 3 steps. One is the reflection, the observation without judgment of, okay, this happened. This was my performance on a test, or this is how that conversation went with my college counselor, or this fight happened with my parents or with my friends. First thing is to reflect on that and just kind of replay the event. Then you want to celebrate any wins that are there. Again, this is another thing we don't do. Just as humans, we have this sort of negativity bias where we're focusing on the negative instead of the positive. So any moments you can pull out that this is a win, wow. 3 years ago, I would have blown up in their face and started screaming and throwing things. And this time, yeah, I was upset, but I didn't do any of that stuff. That is a win. Or, last semester, I probably just wouldn't have studied for this exam. And I tried. I set aside the time and I did study. And I think that's a win, right? Even if the grade is not what you hoped it would be, the simple act of setting aside the time for studying, that's a really great thing, right? So celebrate any wins that you can, and then strategize. What didn't go well? And how can I avoid that in the future? Is there something I can change about my expectations? Is there something I can change about my behavior, my preparation, my communication? What are the things that I can do so that I don't have these bad feelings after I'm reflecting on the next time this thing happens? And where else can I take these learnings, right? So if this was a reflection on a chemistry test that went poorly, how does the learning that comes out of that reflection apply to history, which has an exam next week, or your SATs, or something like that, right? You want to draw those learnings out and help them apply them to other areas. Now, this again is a hard thing to do. often don't have time for it. We're, so used to running from here to there, filling our time with activities and responsibilities, whether that's our choice or not. So it's hard to find time for a routine. So what I suggest is, it's hard to find time for reflection. So what I suggest is a routine around reflection. And reflection can happen on different timescales. You'll see in a moment, I'm going to share your free gift for showing up here today, is a semester reflection tool. It's meant to be used at the end of an academic semester and help a student look back over the entire semester of school. But reflection can also happen on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, and on a daily basis, or some other number of days or time that seems to work for the student. And with routines, it's important that you really clarify what they are and you stick to them for at least 3 weeks before they become habit. And I always say, tie them to something else that you're going to do. I learned this actually from a roommate I had when I was in grad school. She used to do squats while she was brushing her teeth. Just what she would do. She would walk around the house doing her squats and brushing her teeth. She brushed her teeth twice a day. She did squats twice a day. And that was really impressive. And she just connected those two things. And that's how she built a routine around it, right? So if there is another routine in your household, maybe it's Sunday dinner as a family, if that's something that you guys do, maybe the drive to wherever you're going for dinner is where we all reflect. Or a visit with grandma that happens once every 2 weeks is a time that we reflect. Or, big milestones like birthdays. That's a great time to reflect as your birthday is coming up. What's happened in the last year? What do I want to set as kind of goals for next year? Tie it to something that you're already marking as a milestone. And then that routine will hopefully stick. And then as they learn to reflect, they are going to be motivated to make changes that you did not even know they needed to change a behavior around. And you're going to be so proud of them for taking ownership over things that are within their power to change, and that you didn't have to tell them, hey, this needs to change. So reflection. Let me switch over to this free gift that I want to send to you. And I'm going to put this in the chat in just a second. So this is Signet's semester reflection tool. And it's a really kind of pretty worksheet, essentially. And the thought is for your student to do it on their own. Now, you can do it separately, but I really recommend having your student do it on their own and giving them some context for like, why are we doing this, right? And I'm not going to go through every line, but in general, what this is about is taking stock of what happened last semester. And if they've done this exercise before, they may have set goals for that last semester. So, you fill in your goals and you mark how you did against your goals. And this is not a space for judgment. This is a space for just taking stock. This is data, right? And that is a really important posture to take. It's okay, maybe I didn't really get started on this goal. Let's try to understand why. Was this goal too ambitious? Did something else come up that I had to deprioritize this? Or did I realize this goal is actually not relevant to where I'm going? Or was I just lazy and I forgot about it, or I didn't have accountability, or whatever it was, right? This is a moment for learning. This is not a moment for judgment. Okay, review last semester's goal, rate the semester, like how do you feel about it generally, and what made you say that? Were there really cool things that happened? Did you feel like you grew? Let's try to understand that. And then name 3 things that went well, 3 things that didn't go so well. And then we do a little academic hygiene checklist. I love this because students, they have to be honest when they see this. They're like, oh man, yeah, that's me. So they're going to check off anything that applies to them, right? Do I overstudy? Do I understudy? Do I not start my papers far enough in advance? I think they probably all should be checking this one. Am I disengaged in class? Do I have a bad relationship with teachers? Just check these off. Again, data, not judgment, no shame, right? These are things that people struggle with, all kinds of people struggle with at different times in their lives, right? Naming them is the first step to making a change. And then we have some other things that are less academic, but certainly can have a impact on a student's academic performance. And then if there are challenges around a few of these, I really do recommend that you seek help, that your student be willing to accept help for those things, because some of these things we want to nip in the bud before they get too serious, right? There's some scary things happening right now with teenagers, and this is one way to kind of keep an eye on what's going on. So then we've reflected, we've gotten some data about what our habits are, and now what are we going to do about this, what we've learned about ourselves or what we finally admitted about ourselves? Let's set some goals for next semester. What 3 things from this academic hygiene list do I want to work on? And what's my plan for working on them? How am I going to do that? And then setting a vision for all of these different areas of life, right? And you can define these in a lot of different ways, but the vision part is really important. These are not really goals. This is kind of a North Star of like, this is the general direction I want to go. And it's meant to paint a really inspiring picture for the student of, oh man, if my life looked like this at the end of next semester, that would be amazing. And it helps build that motivation. Even when times get tough and maybe some of their goals, their progress isn't where they want, or something else is happening in their personal life, they can tune back in to this vision of who they're going to be at the end of next semester and get motivated again, right? And think, oh, what a beautiful, beautiful life. I want that, right? And this is on a short time scale. It's 3 months, really, a semester. So it's not like they're going to be a totally different person, but hopefully they'll make some meaningful progress along these goals. And then you take those, that vision and turn it into goals. And how are you going to measure those goals? And who is going to help you stay accountable? This is really important. Is actually one of the secrets that I'm going to get to later. You need a team to help you reach your goals. I'm sure all of you as adults can attest to how much your community, your friends, your coworkers have helped you grow as a person or achieve certain goals that you have. And we are not doing it alone, right? We are social creatures. So this is a tool that I'm going to drop into the chat in just a second, and you are welcome to print it out, use it with your kid, use it for yourself, and see how that helps you. Let me go back to my slideshow, which is here. Okay, here we go. So that's reflection. Now, secret 3 is a hard one. Empower them to chart their own path. Now, we talked about how teenagers are seeking their own independence. It can be scary to let go, right? But if you can do this thing that I'm about to show you, you can have trust in your kid that they will make good decisions, because you will understand their values and you will be on the same page about their vision, right? And one of the things that I encourage you to think about as they're thinking about their path, college is not the end goal of this path. Their life is the whole path, and college is really kind of a milestone in the first quarter of it, right? Life goes on way past college. College is really a tool to help them get where they want to go, or a stop along the way on this broader journey, right? But I think a lot of the time, the way we think about college, the way we talk about college, is it's the end goal. And they're children, they're in high school. It is the biggest thing that's on the horizon for them, right? But help them see past it, help them see through it. It's important, certainly, but it's not the end goal. So let's talk about how you do this. And I'm going to share a tool with you that we use with all of our students. No matter what they're working with us on, we use a version of this. This is the life satisfaction wheel we use in our coaching practice. And like I said, depending on what they're doing with us, the categories might look a little different. But this is a tool we use to just start the process of having a student both reflect and think critically about their life and all the things that are kind of going on in their life. And this is not a perfection wheel, this is a satisfaction wheel. So these numbers are not to be meant as objective measures like, oh, my academics are a 10 because I have the highest GPA in the school. It's how satisfied are you? How happy are you with your grades being the way they are, and how hard you have to work for them, and all the stuff that's happening around studying, and how much time you put in, and how anxious you might feel about your grades, right? Are you happy with maybe the cost of that high GPA? And that doesn't mean their goal is to set a lower GPA. It's maybe a goal to, clean up some of those academic hygiene habits, right? So basically, they rate their satisfaction along these different axes. They certainly will have trouble with this the first time, but this is one of those reflection tools I encourage you to bring back over and over again. You can see progress, but also they're just going to get better at reflecting as you do it over and over again. We can observe visually how things change over time. And one thing that really helps about this tool is if you think about it like a wheel that you're going to like drive a car on, if that wheel has like lumps and bumps in it, it's going to be a pretty bumpy ride, right? So academics and friends and future plans may be really high, but if like personal space, the fun level, the family dynamic are really low, well, we're going to be kind of bumping along, right? And that is really reflected in how they feel generally about their life and maybe their motivation and general happiness, right? But if we can get everything, maybe not all the way out to a 10, but we're to a place where things are balanced, we've got a smoother ride, right? So anything that is a high rating here, that's great. Maybe we don't need to focus on that area, but anything that's low, we want to dig into and say, okay, why do you feel this way? What are some of the things contributing to that feeling? Can we, again, name them, think about how we might try to change them, set some goals around them, right? So this is a really valuable tool, and it can help establish that vision, right? Based on whatever they feel ready to work on or motivated to work on, that can help them paint the picture of, okay, once I work on this, this is what my life should feel like, or this is what I should be feeling. And so that paints a vision. And if you're doing this with them, you have a shared vision. We really are on the same page about what are we trying to achieve. And staying focused on that, not changing the goal midway, not moving the goalpost, is really important. So having this documented somewhere is really great too. And I'm not going to go into this here just for the sake of time, but values I think are also a very important part of this. If you can help your child identify what their personal values are, what they value in their friendships, the qualities they admire about other people, the qualities that they want to espouse themselves, then you can have more trust in them that however they pursue their goals is a way that you're also comfortable with, right? So it's like you kind of get a window into the inner workings a little bit. And if you can help each other stay accountable to those to that vision and those values, then you can start to let them have that independence and make certain decisions if they've been able to practice using their vision and their values to make those decisions. That's a little vague, but of course we can have a more detailed conversation if you really want to know how we help students practice that skill. Now, we do college admissions. That's probably the biggest thing that we do at Signet Education, in addition to, tutoring and test prep and coaching. So how does this relate to my business? How does this relate to the college process? You may be asking. It sounds like I'm giving you parenting advice, right? Or just life advice, maybe. But I'll tell you, this is integral to how we approach the college process at Signet. And if you remember back at the top of the presentation, I was saying one of the things we're most proud of is not just where all of our students have gotten into college and what they're going on to do, but that we know that they are ready for that path, right? They know how to make decisions. They understand their values. We know their values. We trust them that when things get tough, they're going to be able to, rely on the skills and strengths that they have, the community of people that they've built around them, to navigate those challenges, right? And also identify potential challenges before they even become challenges, and continually seek ways to improve their lives, right? And again, what does that have to do with college? Well, if a student is taking full advantage of their education, building a community that is meaningful to them, finding ways to live their values in their daily life, whether that's through community service, certain extracurriculars, or just relationships with friends and family. That all will show up in a college application. And that is what colleges are looking for: students that live values that are similar to the college's values. Right? So all of this sort of groundwork around personal growth is helping a student build a candidacy that is also very compelling for college admissions. But beyond that, the thing I'm excited about is helping them prepare for young adult independent life. So let's take a look at, a little more detail of how we approach the college process at Signet. So we really see 9th and 10th grade as sort of years for building candidacy. I'm not going to read all of these bullet points to you, but you can see there's a lot of that sort of foundational personal growthy stuff in there. There are also some kind of tasky strategy type things like optimizing extracurriculars, building teacher relationships, planning the course progression, right? Then we move to preparing to apply in 11th grade. We're talking about what's our standardized testing strategy. We're building our college list, but we are also starting to build the strategic narrative of like, how do you package all of this and present it to a college? And then, of course, we're moving into writing. So summer of 11th grade, fall of 12th grade, we are writing all of these application essays. We may be doing interviews. We're deciding which colleges are really the best for us to target in our early applications. And then come spring, we're making a decision about what school is really the best for you to hit your goals. And so I want to highlight that these things that I've got in bold and italics here are things that we do through the coaching approach. All of that stuff, those secrets I've just been telling you, that is how we get to these things. We're exploring interests. We're understanding and articulating this unique story. We're developing self-advocacy skills. And all of that, the way we see it at Signet, is integral to a successful college application and a successful college applicant, right? There's a slight difference there. We really want to make sure they're ready for what's next. And so a lot of parents are like, well, can't we just start like end of 11th grade? And yeah, you can. Certainly you can. There is a lot more to do on the kind of personal narrative side than just writing an essay, though. And we have seen that when we work from this foundation of values and a vision for the future and all of these skills and relationships, there is a lot more success in getting into college. So yeah, sure, you could even start in the fall of 12th grade, but it's a little harder to get to that authentic whole person that shows up when you've been thinking about this since 9th or 10th grade. Right. So I wanted to just, again, pull the curtain back on this. Again, there are no secrets here. This is how we do it. This is how you can do it. Right. And if you do work with us, this is something that I think really differentiates us from other kinds of tutoring or college admissions companies, is that everything is done with this coaching lens, right? When you work with us on admissions, you get to work with two people on our package. You work with a former admissions officer from some, fancy brand name school. And you work with a coach who also serves as a writing specialist. So really helping students articulate themselves and improve their writing skills. And so what we do is we have monthly coaching sessions starting in 9th grade. Those transform into the writing sessions. And of course, the frequency picks up because we're filing applications soon. We have this comprehensive admissions curriculum. It does start in 9th grade. And we love when students start that early. We see huge transformations. I would say the majority of students start with us summer after 10th grade. So, I would love for them to start just a little bit earlier, but that's when people start thinking about this. And then it also includes these quarterly family meetings to reflect, review progress, and plan ahead. And that's where we all really get to stay on the same page and deal with all the parent questions that I know come up in this process and the parent stresses. So that's just a very small amount about our approach. We call this a Pathfinder admissions approach because we want to be helping students find their unique path. And then to wrap up here, before we move to questions, I'm going to share with you one more secret, and that's that it takes a village. I'm sure you've heard this before. It takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a village in high school, not just when they're little. When you know that it takes a village, you need all the help to, get some sleep and be sane in your life. But in high school, it still takes a village. It might look a little different, but mentors, friends, educators, those teachers, a tutor, a college admissions advisor, any kind of supporter for your student can help foster, encourage these life skills, dig deeper into these conversations and questions without the kind of baggage of mom and dad asking the questions, and really create a safe space for students to learn about themselves, practice this decision making process, and imagine a meaningful future for themselves, and hopefully get to the point where they can also have those conversations with mom and dad without all the blow ups and the tensions, right? Okay, I'm going to stop my share now, and we will just go to questions if there are any. Feel free to come off mute, come on video if you want, put something in the chat. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee, and let's hear your questions. The rule in education is you have to wait 7 seconds. Aha, 7 seconds, and we have a question. Leah, hi.
Hey, Sheila, how are you?
Good.
I know this isn't a question so much as the really awesome, what was it called? I'm losing it. The thing that you were going to put into the chat.
Oh, yeah, the tool.
Yes.
Actually, thank you for reminding me. I will put it in the chat right now so everybody has
Okay,
it.
cool.
Yeah.
That looked really amazing.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's something that you'll be able to implement with your son?
So I feel like everything you said is stuff that I feel like I really try to do.
Of course.
And sometimes it just doesn't happen the way I would love it to, or happen.
Yes.
I could have just stopped it. Sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Of course, of course. It can be difficult, and it also feels very vulnerable, not just for the student, but also for the parent, right? Like you're like, what are they going to say?
Right.
We don't really have these like deep conversations about who you are inside, and so it takes some time to probably like build to that. But that is something I'll tell you, like we usually do with students first or second session.
Yeah.
And they're
I think the
pretty open to it.
suggestion about tying reflection to a routine that you already have is very helpful. Because I would say that's probably the hardest struggle in implementing any of these things is making it, doing it more than one time and getting the momentum where it's actually really a part of your regular routine.
Right, right. And that's why, when you start going to the gym, having a personal trainer or a fitness buddy is really helpful. Somebody else can bring
to
that
schedule it
accountability.
in. Right. It's all about, really making time for it. Yeah.
Great. Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I did just put the link in the chat, so
Thank
you'll be
you.
able to get it.
Thank
And I'll
you.
also go out with the recording of this. Nami has a question. How does the life satisfaction wheel relate to students in 12th grade or college going? That is a great question. And honestly, I think it relates to everyone in their life. You could just replace academics with work. And then you could still use that for, an adult, maybe someone in their 50s or 60s. So one of the things that we really think about, one of the things we really think about as a student is towards the end of 12th grade, heading off to college, maybe even in the fall of 12th grade, we don't know where they're going to college yet, is we start thinking about that transition. What do we know now about what kind of a learner you are, what kind of a social being you are, and how is that going to translate to the college campus? How are you going to get ready for the changes that need to happen? And one thing I probably should have said is when we are identifying values and identifying the students' strengths and interests and things like that. We are always trying to connect them to how is that going to play out in college? How's that going to play out in your career? To help them explore those ideas, right? We really want them to get a clear picture of, what their life could be like at NYU, right? To think about and prepare for the things that may be uncomfortable. So that life wheel is very, very important for that process. It's not just about, okay, let me navigate high school and that's the end. This is something that they can continue using as they transition, even from freshman to sophomore year of high school or, of college, or from senior year of college into the working world. And our students, hopefully have this habit kind of locked in before they get off to college. And we do a lot of work with college students as well, either just dealing with college and keeping up with their academics and finding balance in their lives, but also in the graduate admissions process. We do a lot of that. I hope that answers your question. Yep, no problem. What else do we have? I know that this was a pretty high level conversation, but if you have something more specific and you're wondering how our approach might help or any of these tools might help, feel free to ask. We can kind of change the topic a little bit if we need to. I'm going to give it another 7 seconds. Okay, I think, we got a question. Okay, great. I was about to wrap us up. Samuel has a rising ninth grader interested in coaching. We do have packages. Actually, Samuel, what I was about to do was put my email in the chat. And, let's set up a time to talk. And I can talk you through, how we structure things and what might be a good starting point for you guys. So just send me a note and we'll set up a time to talk. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'm happy to give you all back 6 minutes in your day. I hope you enjoy your weekend and the long weekend. And I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Sheila.
Bye. Okay, bye. Nami, if you want to stay on, we could chat here. Too much pressure. Yes, I think that's a really great question. A lot of people are worried about starting to talk about college because they think it's going to create pressure for the student. And what I'll tell you is that pressure is already out there. There's research that shows kids are worried about college as early as second grade. And that is like a devastating fact to me. We don't want them feeling like this thing is hanging over them. And so that's one of the reasons that with our 9th and 10th grade curriculum, we're really focused on not specific college tasks, but rather let's take a full advantage of the moment you're in. Let's build teacher relationships. Let's help you figure out what kind of a learner you are. Let's learn study skills. Let's think about things that are enjoyable to you and find, extracurriculars for you to engage in and build friendships and set up good habits, right? It's not about, okay, what colleges are you applying to? And here's how we have to strategize, right? We are doing that sort of behind the scenes with everything that we're learning about the student. We're thinking about, okay, I see this kind of story starting to build, or these interests are coming to the fore. Maybe next summer, I'm going to suggest to them that we do, a program around this interest that is just budding right now. But that's not something that we're sharing with the student right at the start. We're really sort of judicious about how and when we're sharing information. If they seem really anxious, sometimes it's helpful to say, hey, this is what the plan looks like. This is when we're going to do all of these things. I get 9th graders who are like, oh my God, the SAT. And I'm like, okay, hold on. We have at least a year and a half before you need to worry about that. And when I can explain to them how all the pieces fit into the puzzle, they're like, okay, great. And you're going to tell me when I need to worry about this? Fantastic. I can put it out of my brain right now. Right. So that's kind of one of the ways that we deal with those pressures. And of course, parents are always thinking about these things too. And so we're really serving as a sounding board and a guidance counselor almost for parents to help them understand all the pieces and what's the strategy that we're building. So it can be much more explicit with parents. Okay. I'm happy to take another question, but if you're ready to go, then you're welcome to drop off too. Okay, I think that's it. All right, everybody, have a great Saturday. Thanks for spending time with me. Bye.